welcome to Stu's Inspiration, Season 1, Episode 1. That was Stu's Inspirations. Do you see what I did there? Yes, this is a podcast all about my friends, people that have inspired me throughout my life, and those people have something common interest with me, and that is that we love dogs. And my first guest, we're really, really lucky to have her, and I'm very lucky to have her as one of my friends. She is the first lady of the West End and Broadway. Cracks me up when I say that. I've known her for a very, very long time before she had that title, when she was a princess only. So but now she is the queen of the West End and Broadway. It's the one and only Kerry Ellis.
Thank you for having me on. This is so lovely, and it's so strange for us to be talking because, like you say, we met so long ago when we were both mere kind of, just at college. We were kind of, fresh out of the bat on stage, and it seemed like a lifetime ago. And it's amazing what's happened with you and your complete gear change of career and how you've been so successful doing what you're doing now. And it's just brilliant. It's lovely to be here, and I'm thrilled.
But it's right back at you, because watching your career for me is just absolutely wonderful. And I have been a massive fan of yours for years and years and years and years. Even though we worked together, even then when we were sharing a stage together, I was a massive fan of yours. And I remember because we did a tour, didn't we, of Magic of the Musicals.
Magic of the Musicals, yeah.
And I'll never forget the day. I think it was in St David's Hall. Was it St David's Hall in Wales?
When I went on.
Cardiff, you went on. So just tell the story for us.
Well, I mean, it was my first job out of college, and it was, first time I'd ever kind of done a big tour like that. And poor Marty, bless her heart, it was Marty Webb and Dave Willits, wasn't it? They were the stars, and people were coming obviously to see them, and we were the ensemble. We did all the kind of backing vocals, all the dancing and everything, and bless Marty, she got poorly. Obviously, it's a big tour, so to sing all that,
a massive sing, isn't it?
It's huge. So the pressure on her was massive, and she got poorly. And I still don't quite know how it happened, but I ended up doing the show for her, and it was kind of my launch into theatre, really, kind of baptism by fire, if you like. And then from then, it seemed that happened to me a lot in the shows that I then did. Like My Fair Lady, I got thrown on at the last minute. Wicked, I got thrown on at the end of Act 1. Those kind of things happen to me, and I'm kind of grateful for them because they've given me a chance to be thrown in and not have time to think about it. Because I think sometimes we can get obsessive, us actors and singers and performers, and overthink things, whereas I've not had time to do that, which I think is a good thing.
It's so funny though, because I can remember standing at the side and watching you perform some of Marty's numbers, or when we were on stage together, and all of us, because there was 6 of us, wasn't there? Was there 6 of us?
Yeah,
already?
Yeah, 6.
3 boys and 3 girls, and we were all just really rooting for you, and we all had like our fingers crossed behind our backs. And honestly, the minute you opened your mouth, everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is something special." It really was. It was a real moment, and everyone was a bit like, "Oh, I'm a bit jaded. What about me?" But it was, testament to you, because your career has gone on from strength to strength. And I remember as well, you got the audition for My Fair Lady whilst we were on tour, and I remember you rehearsing for it. I think we came back, and I remember you rehearsing with Barry Robinson, who was our MD. He played some music that they'd sent you, and I remember you got that job too.
I did. I did.
It was bloody out of work, this one.
Oh, but you know what though? It's been interesting because I have been very fortunate to have a good 20 years of doing some amazing jobs and never having that moment when, you always talk about, when we're out of work, when we're doing that. And I've been really fortunate to not have that, whether it's just because I've created other avenues of things to do, like my own concerts, or done bits of voiceovers or radio or whatever it is. I've never had that moment. And lockdown has been the first time in 20 years that the opportunity hasn't been there, and it's been really debilitating and very strange. But it's also made me realise how much I love it and why I love it, and that I can't wait for it to return.
And has it made you relax a bit? Like, do you find that when you're working all the time, you're always on the go? Because I know I do that. And so when you've been forced to stop, I remember in the summer when I we had to close down, and at the time, in the first lockdown, grooming wasn't essential.
Yeah.
So I remember laying in my garden just being like, oh my God, I'm actually getting a tan. I've stopped. I feel really, really relaxed. I feel great. And it really helped me with my mental health.
I think it almost in the opposite for me. I
Oh,
think
no.
initially, because that first couple of weeks was great, because the sun was shining, it was lovely,
Yeah.
I was in my garden. For me to stop for the first couple of weeks and be with my family, that was great. I think, but then on, it was almost like a big part of me was missing, because I'm not who I am. A big part of me is who I am as a mum at home, and a wife, and a friend to lots of people, and doing that home life, which is part of my life. But a massive part of my life is being on stage and singing songs and communicating with people, and to not be doing that was hard. And I realized how important that is for my mental health, to get out and just be me. And I'm probably a lot more brave and a lot more extrovert on stage than I am in real life. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I can put my sequin jumpsuit on and my 7-inch heels, and I can strut across the stage and sing these big songs. But in my normal life, I'm in my sloggies, and I'm walking the dog, and I'm very simple. I like to do yoga, those kind of things. So it's been tricky for me. I've had to re-educate myself of what to do to keep me sane. Things like walking the dog, it's kept me going, getting outside, exercising,
Yeah.
moving, those kind of things. And I know we'll get to it, but your pets are massive. They bring you so much joy. They're that unconditional love. They're that the person that doesn't answer you back, that if you want them to do fractions, they're not going to give you drama. Homeschooling. So it's, I feel very grateful we've got a pet in our lives. I don't think we would have, it's been a really good distraction for us
It's funny.
as a family.
It's funny though, you say that about exercise and walking the dog and everything else, because when we first started this chat, before we started recording, we both came on and were like, oh, we've had a really bad day, we've had bad, and you said, I wish I'd exercised this morning. And I suppose walking the dog for me, that is that exercise. And it's something for everyone. If you've got a dog, you do go out, makes you go and get the fresh air. You see how much they enjoy it, and it really grounds you. It really reminds you. You only have to look at that little being enjoying life so much that you actually go, do you know what? That's what it's all about.
Absolutely, yeah. They do. They get you out. I mean, we've had dogs in the family. My family have dogs. My brother has a dog. My mum has always had one. They obviously lost one, and they haven't not replaced it, but got another one yet. And I'm desperate for them to do it, because again, it gets them out.
How long ago did they lose their dog?
A good few years. I'd say maybe 3 years, maybe. There's always seems to be an excuse. And I think because they had such an amazing dog, they're like, but we won't get another one. I'm like, yeah, but it'll be a different dog. It's fine.
Yeah.
But for them, it will be so important to their lives. Again, getting them out, getting them walking, it's a good distraction in the house. I might just buy them one and take it over.
It's so funny, because my mum's going through quite a lot at the moment, and she's quite elderly, and not elderly. I wouldn't say she's elderly. She'd kill me if she heard me say that. But she's in her 70s. She's a bit frightened of coronavirus or COVID-19, so she's not going out. She's not meeting people, which is the right thing to do. But if it wasn't for her dog, she wouldn't go out at all day, every day. And so she puts her mask on and she walks or hobbles around the block with her 2 little dogs. And it gets her out. It gives her fresh air. And we all need it.
Yeah,
we all need that, and she desperately needs it. So the older folks listening, definitely, if you've got a dog, get out, walk the dog. You can socially distance. You can be safe.
Yeah, you can. I think we'll always just have dogs in our life. It's just who we are, and I can't imagine being without it. I mean, also, I do know the other side of it. When you lose a pup, when you lose a pet,
I was going to ask you about little Jack, but
oh my God.
I'm not sure. I was worried, because I was thinking, I know how much. I know that feeling. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess a bit of background for people. I had before I met my husband, I had a little Jack Russell. That again, I was a dog family, but I didn't have a dog at the time.
We used to
And
walk together. We used to walk, my and my dogs and your dog. We
we
used to
did,
go walking together, didn't
we
we?
did, we did. Did I have both when we did that, or
Uh,
just Jack?
uh, no, I think you
Jack.
did. You had Jack initially, and then you got both, and then we didn't see each other for a while.
Yeah, and so I bought Jack when I moved into my own little house, and
Oh, in
I
Broccoli. In Broccoli, you had a
in
house.
Broccoli, yeah, and I bought this little Jack Russell that was just my everything. And I was in Wicked, and he used to come with me to the show. He'd sit under my desk. He came everywhere with me. He was like my proper baby. And I then met James about 8 months after, and Jack was having none of James at all. Every time James would come in the house, Jack would just wee all over him because he was like, "No, this is our relationship. Where you don't come into this relationship." And it was hilarious because James is a big dog person too, and he was like, "Why is this dog just not getting me at all?" Anyway, he was the most incredibly spirited, incredible dog. I mean, I just adored him. But we lost him. He was about 8, I think.
That Russell, yeah.
Yeah, and we had the second one. We had Ocho, who I have now, and Ocho was about 5, I think. And Jack got out. I mean, he hadn't got out in 6 years. I don't know how he did it. I don't know where it came from. You know, if he saw a squirrel or whatever. But I think how he got out was he jumped on our bins out the back and then got into the neighbour's garden and then got out into the road and he got hit and blah blah blah. And it was just I mean I lost a week. I've never known pain like it. I've never known loss like it. I mean I'd lost a grandparent, but I hadn't lost, and we'd lost our family pet, but I was away. I was at college. But I'd never gone through that kind of separation, and it wiped me out, and it was so bizarre. And lots of people say, "Oh, well, I couldn't go through that again," but I would always rather have another dog than not have a dog. You know, even though it was very painful.
I think that's because the years of happiness that you have override that time.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
it's the
absolutely.
price that you pay. And I always say to people that once you're a dog owner, you'll always be a dog owner, whether you've got one or not. It's in your
Yeah,
heart.
yeah, it is. It
And I
is.
remember I came to see you doing. I think you did a show at the Delaware Pavilion in Bexhill.
Yes.
And I spoke to you about Jack, and you said, "Oh, hold on, I need to just check to see whether I'm okay to speak about it." I just knew exactly what you meant because obviously I had my standard poodle, Alfie, and he died at 8 months old. And I've literally never, I mean, I've lost my dad, and I've never felt the grief because you feel completely responsible for that little thing. And I think it's the fact that you can't explain to them the danger, you can't protect them from it, and it is just something, it's part of life, but it's just so hard to
Mm,
wrap your head around. And even now, if I talk about Alfie too much, I start getting upset and I just
yeah,
do it. So it's
yeah.
just, let's not dwell.
Let's not dwell. Let's not dwell. But they
I'm
were
so,
great dogs.
yeah, I'm just so pleased though that you've got such beautiful memories of Jack because I remember him so well and I just loved him. I thought he was just fabulous.
And lots of people do at the show because obviously lots of people at Wicked saw him and he was on various little videos and people would see him at stage door. And so lots of people knew who he was and knew that I always had this little Jack Russell under my arm. And it was, yeah, he kind of affected a lot of my family. He had a big impact on my whole family
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they all used to help and look after him at a certain point. So, but like I said, he was a massive impact, but and this is funny though. I've still got his ashes. I can't get rid of his ashes.
I'm the same. I've got Alfie's ashes, and I've said to my husband James that if I die before he does, he has to make sure they put him in with me because I'm not ever leaving him. Literally, my sister lost her dog just recently, her greyhound, and
Greyhound.
and he was just lovely. And I got him cremated. So you can get them. You pay, can't you? You can pay for them to be cremated separately.
Yeah.
So I got that done for him, and I gave it to Lorraine at Christmas. I know that sounds really gross, but it's
Here's your ashes.
it's Christmas. Happy Christmas! So no, I didn't do it like that, quite like that. But she said, "Oh yeah, thanks, Stu." She said, "Yeah, I'm gonna put him under the tree in the back garden." And I was like, I wanted to have it. I wanted to go. I'll just take that back from you because I can't bear that she might move. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not.
that's why I didn't, because we were going to spread Jack's ashes over like the park where we always used to go and used to run, and I thought that's a really appropriate place to spread them. But I've not managed to get. I can't part with them at the moment.
No,
So
no,
he just sits in the office and he's
don't
just
do it.
there.
Keep it with
I've
you.
got
Keep
a
it
beautiful
with you.
picture above him, but
Oh, I love that.
no,
Oh, I love that. I'd like to see a photo of that. So when you say, because you were saying that you used to take him to Wicked and he'd sit in your dressing room and stuff, do you think that there's, because I worked with Richard Swearing in Joseph ages and ages, years and years and years ago, even before we did Magic and Musicals. And he used to take a dog or bring his dog with him. And I think a lot of actors do. Do you find that lots of, I don't think that ensemble do so much, but leads, definitely, they have a dog. Do you think?
I think, well, it massively depends on the show. I know Michael Ball takes his dogs everywhere.
Does
They
he?
go everywhere with him. I mean, I've done concerts with Michael, and his dogs will come like plodding around, and they just go everywhere. I think some people do. It depends massively on the theatre whether they'll let them in. I don't think they're massively as keen now to let them in as they used to be, and I kind of get it. I do understand.
Kind of weird though, because I think that the whole attitude towards dogs has completely changed. Like, there's loads of restaurants you can go to with your
Yeah,
so you'd think that, I mean, there's no reason why a dog couldn't be, apart from noise, if they were to bark in the dressing room and stuff. But
yeah.
the dressing room is usually far enough away from the stage that it wouldn't necessarily be a problem.
No, and I think for people's kind of mental health. I mean, to have a dog in the building is amazing. For dog people, I guess, is amazing, and everyone wants to give them a cuddle, and it's really kind of therapeutic and a good energy. I guess it depends on your dressing room situation, though, doesn't it? I mean, if you've got a bit of space and you've got your own one, then that's fine. But if you haven't, it can be a bit tricky. But we take our dog kind of most places. I mean, now he's a bit older. He kind of he's well. Now you've got kids. I mean, we have to be at home anyway. I can't leave the kids at home. So, it's a package deal. If the
Yeah.
dog goes babysitting, the kids go with them. They all go as a package deal. So it's not as I think, because I was on my own, there wasn't really another option, and he was so little that I didn't want to leave him at the time.
Yeah, cool.
And it was
And
too long to leave him.
so has Ocho ever been to, is it Ocho or Oppo?
Ocho.
Ocho. Is that eight in Italian?
Yeah, my husband is got a bit of OCD and he's a bit obsessed with the number 8. It's part of his kind of like, freaky thing. And he's just obsessed with it. So I was like, we can't call him 8. We can't call Ocho 8, so we decided we'd call him Ocho, which is Spanish for 8. So
I think that's a great name.
now, if you're over the park and you're shouting 8, come here. I mean, it's not the one really.
It's really funny. James, my husband, when he walks the dogs, he can be walking down the seafront in Bexhill, and obviously I've got a Bichon called Molly, and James walks along, and if she starts to go a bit too far, he goes, "Molly, Molly," and then people walking past go, "Morning," because they think he's saying morning. I'm like,
Aggressive morning. Aggressive.
morning, morning.
I love
Honestly,
that.
when I go walking with him, I'm crying with laughter because I'm like, I cannot believe it's so.
I love that though. The more obscure the name is, if it's a family dog and the kids have chosen the name, because then you've got to shout out something so ridiculous in the part. I love that.
True.
I mean,
How old is Ocho?
he's 12, so he's a bit of an old boy now, and he's starting to get a few little lumps and bumps and stuff, but he's just been our family dog. I don't know what we'll do now.
Jack Russells, I mean, they last forever, don't they? They're a bit like.
Yeah, well, touch wood. Yeah, I mean, we were looking to get a new dog. I mean, I've always wanted a bigger dog. I wanted like a Labrador or something a bit bigger, and
poodle,
a poodle, and we've just moved house actually, so just to get a bit more space. And we said we'd get one when we moved, and I was saying to James, if you haven't got me a puppy for Christmas, then there's big trouble. And he was getting stressed because he said, we've been together in 12 years, and he was like, never in 12 years have you ever asked me for anything. He said, I'm freaking out with the pressure. And I was kind of joking, but we're ready. I think the boys are 7 and 5, so I think Otto's 12. I think it's the right time to introduce another dog before, you know, he gets too old and he doesn't want a puppy around. And the boys need to, they're great with Otto, and he loves them.
I was going to say, to Alfie and Freddie just literally love him.
Oh, they love him. But Freddie loves him. He thinks he's like a cuddly toy.
Yeah.
I think Alfie, who's he's 7, I think he would just benefit from a puppy because of the energy, and they would play together a bit more. Otto's not massive, you know, he wants to go for a walk and he wants to cuddle, but he doesn't want to like play with the ball as such, whereas a puppy would.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he's like, leave me alone.
Yeah, I've had my fun. Now I need.
I need to rest. So maybe we'll try and look. But then the crazy thing about lockdown is people are now like cashing in on lockdown and people's vulnerability of getting a dog, and they've just rocketed with how expensive they are. And I kind of, part of me wants to get a rescue, but it's a bit difficult with young children. So I'm a bit in two minds at the moment. So we'll see. We will get one. It's just when.
It is so hard. Like, I just know there are certain fashion breeds that are just going through the roof at the moment, and people are seeing it as a cash cow. There's such unscrupulous people out there, but you know, if you search for the right breeder or the right rescue centre, then you'll definitely, I'm sure that you'll find the right one. It's just, it is that whole. I remember when I first got Maggie, I went to a pet shop. I knew nothing at all about dogs because it was 12 years ago that I started even being like considering grooming as a career, and I got Maggie for my mum.
Is that 12 years? Oh my god!
Yeah, and me and James got Maggie for my mum as a Christmas present, and the pet shop that we got it from, I mean, a pet shop, for God's sake, Stuart, what the hell was I thinking? They said, oh, we can't keep her until Christmas, so you'll have to look after her and then give her to your mum. And I was like, oh, right, okay, she will just have to stay at my flat. So she came to my flat, and within 12 hours, me and James were like, my mum can't have her. My heart was given like to this cute little dog, and she's nearly 14 now, I think.
Oh my god.
So yeah, it's crazy how much they take you on. Do you feed your dogs anything special?
No. We used to with Jack, perhaps a little bit. I used to be a bit more lenient, but with Ocho, I think because he's that bit older, it's very basic. He has just dry food and occasionally like a couple of denti sticks or something, but he can't cope with it. His little tummy can't cope with it. He just throws it up if he has anything else. You know, occasionally we might give him a little bit of chicken and a bit of vegetable if we've had a roast dinner or whatever, but not. I mean, if any of my parents come, they're terrible because they feed him from the table and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not helping. You're not helping him. And of course, he's like a little Hoover that goes around if you drop anything. But no, we're quite good with him. We just give him, you know, dog food and a bit of vegetable occasionally. But
yeah, we'd say, well, James and I feed our dogs raw, but we've got one little dog, a little rescue dog called Nelson, and he can't bear it. He's like, no, I literally can't cope with it. So he's the same. He just has a few dry biscuits, a little bit of chicken occasionally, and that's totally enough for him. If we give him anything that's too rich, he's thrown it up, or he just, you know, he has the shit.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a Bichon Maltese.
Oh my god.
He's so cute. He's literally the cutest little dog. And it was actually a customer of mine that didn't want him anymore. And they weren't particularly kind. And I was very worried. They knew how worried I was about the dog. So much so that I couldn't groom him anymore because I was getting upset whenever I was grooming this dog because I knew that it was going back to something that he shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? Into a situation that he shouldn't be in. And in the end, I just got a phone call. No, I just got a knock at the door at the groomers, and he said, "Oh, I've got a dog in the footwell of my car." It was a taxi driver, and they sent him to the salon in a taxi with half a bag of food.
Oh my god! It's like Annie.
It's exactly like Annie. I'm Daddy Warbucks. We got Nelson.
Oh my!
We got Nelson. So I literally danced around the room.
Oh my
Space barrel. giving high kicks. Anyway, so that's how he got Nelson, and so it was a bit of a. And now he's nearly 14, so I've got all of my dogs are quite old. They're all like 12 to 14 years old, apart from Ralph, my standard poodle, who's 9. But even that, because he's so big, 9's quite old for a standard. So I'm just like, oh God, it's going to be like devastation all at once.
Will you just always get more? Will you just kind of?
I'll always have a dog. I don't think James would let me get anything but a standard poodle now, because me and James are just so in love with Ralph, because he's a dog that you can go running. I go running quite a lot, so he can go running with me. He loves action. He loves chasing a ball. He's always running up and down the beach. So and James, whereas my older ones are, I think we'll plod around for about,
Yeah.
They can't go very far. They just want to sniff a lamppost and then go back home and fall asleep.
It's important, though, isn't it, for people to get the right dog for their circumstance or their situation, isn't it? Like, if they want a companion dog, or like if it's slightly an older person that wants something that's just going to walk down the road with them, it's really important for them to get the right type of dog.
Absolutely. And people don't realise, because I was having this conversation, because there's not very much, obviously Pooch Perfect, the TV show I've been working on, starts tonight, and that highlights grooming, but there's no ever mention of grooming. Like, if you watch the Paul O'Grady thing, there's never really a mention of dog grooming. And actually, we're probably the most expensive part of dog ownership if you've got a dog that needs that type of care. If you've got a hair-bearing dog, dogs that grow hair just like ours, they keep growing, and they need to go to the groomers regularly. Do you get yours groomed?
Yeah, because Otto's he's like a long hair, he's wire haired, so he doesn't really molt, which is amazing. Jack used to molt like anything. And we probably get him cut maybe, I don't know, 3 times a year, but that's about it. But still, it's something to think about, isn't it? Because if you're getting a groom, every, I don't know how long, probably all different.
Well, for a standard poodle, for example, I know, because obviously I do it, but in my salon in London, for a standard poodle haircut, it can be up to about 100 quid, and that's every 6 weeks.
Wow, that's brutal, isn't it? That's more than people getting cut and coloured their own hair.
Well, exactly, because it's just on their head for people, but for dogs, it's their whole body. So you have to, and you don't poo on the hairdresser's seat, and you don't bite the hairdresser, do you, Kerry? Or do you?
Sometimes. No, it's important. It's things to think about, isn't it, when people are getting dogs? It really is.
Oh God, yeah. It frustrates me so much when people don't realise the skill that goes into being a dog groomer. I'm always going banging on about it.
Well, I think it may have hit home a little bit more recently when the first lockdown happened and people realised, actually, there were people considering cutting their own dog's hair, because they couldn't get. Otto was all right, because if Otto gets a bit long, he's okay. But we were like in the height of summer, and he looked like a little kind of sheep, and we were like, I don't really want to take my husband's clippers to him, but I took him to my husband's hair, and that was terrible. But I think it made people realise that first lockdown of what we do need them, and
I did an article for The Sun, and it was literally a step by step what you can do with your dog at home, and I just literally said, put it up in a band if it's in their eyes. Don't try and take scissors to their face, because they're sharp, and they're razor sharp, and the dog's wriggly. It's just an accident waiting to happen. Unless you know what you're doing, it's just not worth doing it.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk, is it?
So did you ever consider hand stripping, Ocho?
What? And once again in English?
So, with a wire hair dog like Ocho is, and I know he is because I've seen photos and you just told me, you can pluck it.
Pluck him? No!
Well, you wouldn't be able to now, because once you've...
he's got too much hair, I'd be there for months plucking it.
Well, so a breed standard for a Jack Russell would be hand stripped. So you just get the wire head and you just pull them and they just come out, and it doesn't hurt the dog at all. But you only do it for wire head dogs and dogs that haven't been clipped, because once you've clipped a wire coat, it starts to go soft. and changes colour. So
It's soft, yeah, it's lovely and soft.
lovely and soft, exactly. Whereas most Jack Russell people, I want it to be really weatherproof, and the way that you keep it weatherproof is to pluck it.
Oh, I didn't know that. How funny is that?
I know, you see.
I do remember calling you one time and asking about doing his glands, his anal glands. I remember that and going, right, so listen, do
Stu.
you think I can do this? Stu, how do I do it? Because he stinks. And, I mean, the things you do, it's like having a baby. And clipping the claws. I mean, we used to do it with Jack, but I don't do it with Otto anymore because he's got too many black claws, so it frightens me a little bit. So I don't.
It's scary, but it's even scary for. I mean, we know sort of where to go, but I work with a woman called Judy Harris, and we call her the butcher of St Leonard, because whenever she does a nail, I'm like that. Oh God, it's just that nail's bleeding again. It is really hard when they're black, but you get used to it after a while, and it's definitely a grooming job. I think it's too hard for owners to do it, and if the dog hates it, they'll pull away. It's such a sensitive area.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, we don't do it anymore. He would let me do it, but I mean, he's so dopey and docile, but I just don't like it. It makes me nervous, so I just let the groomers do it. And he comes out smelling lovely, and he loves going. He loves having a bath. He has a bath quite a lot, actually. Should you bath them? Like, I have this discussion with my husband because he's got OCD, and he's like freaks out if the dog's dirty. But we grew up with a proper muddy little Jack Russell, and we would just wipe his paws with a towel, and that would be it. We would bath him, but not all the time. Should you bath them? Like, is there a right or wrong with it?
Well, they used to be. I think they used to be. And the thing is with Jack Russells is because of the wire coat. If you get them hand stripped, or they don't get groomed so much, they'll do it themselves. So the reason they have the hair that comes out is because they're ratters. So they go down a hole, and if a rat grabs the hair, they can pull away and just pull out. So it's just for their safety.
Yeah.
But it's also weatherproof. So if they go through the brush and it's really, really muddy or whatever, then you can just wipe a Jack Russell clean because they're so wiry and it's fine. But once you've clipped them and it goes soft, then you can't really do that anymore because they end up having like sort of fur that's a bit more porous.
Yeah,
so they take on everything.
Yeah.
There's loads of really good shampoos out there. You just get a really good pet labeled shampoo, and I will absolutely message you the one that I would recommend. There's one coming out soon called Stuart Simon's.
Okay, then I shall get that.
You'll probably get that one. But there's some really, really good, and you can do it as much as you want. I mean, I always groom my dogs once a week.
He has a bath once a week. No, absolutely. Especially where we live now, because we're right on the back of fields now, so he gets really muddy.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with showering them down and just
I
would say once a week, and especially with my dogs because they're hairy rather than fur bearing, so their hair grows and grows and grows, just like and they're curly. If I don't do it and brush them out, then they'll get knotted and matted.
Yeah. And like shampoo wise, like if you, can you use like normal shampoo or like is that a big no? You have to use dog shampoo.
Dog shampoo. It's only because the pH levels are different, so their skin is completely different to ours. It is such a scientific thing, so really, really like too deep to go into now. But if you use a human grade shampoo, it can cause chemical burns.
Oh, okay. So it's
just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And the shampoo
always feels so watery, doesn't it? Like you do their shampoo, you're like, there's nothing to it. It's like a bit of fairy liquid.
But also, because professionally, when we get our shampoo in the big, massive vats that we get in, when you work commercially, you have to dilute it. But the pet label ones that are off the shelf, you don't. So it's a real sort of mixed match, but yeah, they are a bit watery.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so pleased. So you're thinking of getting another dog? You're thinking Labrador?
Well, we go through all. I mean, we'd have anything. We're that much dog lovers. We'll have anything. If we had something knock up on the door, we would just take it in.
Same as me.
Our neighbours have got a beautiful little whippet called Alfie, who's like brindle and beautiful. We love him. I really like the red. Kind of the red fox Labradors, they're slightly thinner, or a Vizsla, or a Ridgeback, or something like that. That are really good family dogs, but just a bit bigger. I mean, it freaks James out again because of the bathing, but I think Ocho's closer to the ground, so he gets muddier quicker, whereas a big dog wouldn't do that so much.
That is absolutely true, because my Bijons, they get absolutely covered, but Ralph is really big, he doesn't really often need too much going on.
So yeah, perhaps something like that. We have maybe a whippet, which I love, but I think because the boys are so boisterous, I think maybe
their legs are so delicate.
They're so delicate, yeah. So maybe I think a lab or a red fox lab. I think maybe.
Very nice.
No, but they're so expensive. I'm not. I'm in theatre. It's not a good year for me.
So are you going to take the Labrador with you to the theatre?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. No, the best thing what will happen is we'll get one, and then everything will open up, and then I'll end up going off and doing a big job, and James will be left here with the puppy and the kids and the lot.
James ever mind you going off and doing like tours and stuff? Because you were in Dubai just recently, weren't you?
I was. I can't quite believe that I got to go. It was one of those kind of, we were in, what were we in, tier 3, I think, at the time, and I'd been tested. I went through all of that, and I just kept coming up closer and closer and closer and thinking, I'm not going to go on this, but I did, and it was great. And because there was still the corridor at the time, so the travel corridor, so I flew out, and out in Dubai, they're kind of, everything's open, they just all wear masks everywhere, so they're dealing with it like that. And I did the concert, which was amazing, and then I got back, and it couldn't have been better timed, because obviously we came back and went into tier 4, and it was just that moment I got to have a bit of headspace and get away and sing and be with a big band and do what I do. So it kind of scratched that itch for a little while. But I think it's always been forever changing. When we met 6 weeks, and then I went to Broadway for 6 months. So it's always been that life for him. I've always been doing a show or a tour or my own tours, or he's never really known anything different. Yes, he's had moments of, this isn't normal.
Yeah.
But it never has been normal. And when he met me, it wasn't normal. So I think we've settled into it now. I think having the kids helps, because it creates a bit more of routine and stability. But again, that wasn't normal. Initially, when I had the kids, I took the kids with me on tour, because obviously they couldn't be away from me. And they just came in their car seats and went on. They went on tour buses, on planes, on everything. So they've always been used to traveling and stuff, and we just kind of evolve as a family as things change. And as the boys are now at school, that they have to be there. So I then go and do my stuff on my own, which is fine. And with FaceTime and everything, it's a lot easier to keep in touch. And I try not to go away for too long a period. So I try and keep maybe a week, if that, or 2 weeks maximum. But I try not to go away for too long.
I remember when I first met my James, we moved into our house a year after we met, and then I went to South Africa for a big long tour. So I was like, yeah, I think it's the same. I think that they just either accept it or they wouldn't. Luckily, both of our Jameses have accepted it.
Yeah, well, they're still resisting. Well, mine's still resisting, but I'm like, well, we're married now, so tough.
Exactly, me too.
Well, I just think it's a good kind of, the most important thing about it, which is what I try and tell my kids, is that we both have jobs that we love doing, and it's more about us showing our kids that we're doing jobs and we're providing a lifestyle, but we're loving our jobs, and that is massively important. And
it works. You respect each other, because you both love, you love what each other do and respect what each other's do, each other's careers, and that's exactly the same for me and James. And actually, funnily enough, I heard, who's that woman that's on Drag Race? Michelle Visage.
Yeah.
She was talking, because she said the trick to a happy marriage. The trick? That's not the right word, is it? What's the right word? The secret to a happy marriage is to be able to leave that person, go away, and not have to worry about that person. That you know that they're going to be there when you come back, and you can still have a life separate to when you're together. And I think that's really, really healthy.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it is great for us, because you've also got something to talk about. Again, I think that's what's been the difficult with lockdown, is you go off, you do your job, you go about your day, and you come back and you've got things to discuss and talk about, and and it's great. But in lockdown, you've obviously been together all day, every day. You're like, great. So how's your day? Well, you've been here.
That is true. James said to me, he was really, after the first lockdown when I wasn't working, he said to me, I was worried because I didn't think we were going to get on, but actually I really want you to be here. And it was lovely, because it was really lovely to spend time together. And whenever we go on holiday with each other, we always have a really, like, he makes me laugh like nobody else does. So it's really, really important just to come back and just check in occasionally. But then as lockdown's over, I'm like, see ya!
Yeah, well, I think that's it, isn't it? It's been a test, but I think like people are, make or break, isn't it? And I think most of us have kind of got on with it, and it's been okay. And you realise why you are with that person, because you go through it all together, and whatever the circumstance is, you make it work, and you become each other's. It's better to be together than to be apart. So
it's a bit like separation anxiety for dogs. I wonder if it's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jack Ocho's never been walked so much, and he's never been used to us being all here at the same time. He's probably like, will you go away so I can relax?
Weirdly, after the first lockdown, lots of dogs did end up getting separation anxiety because their owners were there all the time with them, and then suddenly they went back to work again, and they're like, oh, well, what about me?
Yeah,
so it's a really tricky old subject.
Tricky old thing.
Well, my lovely, it's been just so lovely to talk to you. I've loved it. I really miss you. We must get together again soon.
I know. I think it's one thing that this lockdown has made apparent. People in your life that we all say it in our normal busy lives. Yes, we must catch up. But I think lockdown's made it even more apparent that people should make the effort and get together, and we definitely will. And we will. It won't just be me coming down to do a show. It'll be
even if
it's a social.
Even if it's a walk along the beach, we can certainly do that with the dogs. Absolutely. Once you've got your new Labrador, especially. Thank you so much again, Kerry. I'll see you next time. Thanks. See ya. Bye.